Welcome back. I'm out in the workshop and I've realised that I haven't put a video out for quite a while about doing anything. Partly because of my back, partly because I just haven't had the enthusiasm, partly because the next thing to do is the painting of the pom-pom and I just haven't built up the courage, enthusiasm, whatever the word is. But here goes. Slight disclaimer before I go into this. Just realised it sounded like I'm about to start the painting, but this is preparation for painting. Shock horror, I've been tidying. We've got clearish floors. I've broken a wheel on that trolley again, so that's something to deal with at some point. Yeah, we've swept everything, we've tidied things up, and we've started clearing the bench to try and get to a stage that all that's left is this. Yeah, so it's been a long case of moving everything out and clearing up. But while I've been clearing, I just noticed something that I'd put aside a long time ago because I just lost faith in what to do with it. Let's take a look. So I've come up with an idea that might solve the problem. So, my driving trolley, I made it during lockdown, April 2020, hence the number and the name. Took me about a month to make, and yeah, I've used it, but I have had a problem. When anything less than perfect track and anything less than perfect weight distribution, it derails. But I think I've come up with why and a solution. I think there's not enough movement on the bogies. Now, they do a lot of that, but the main pivot doesn't really rock that way at all because it's drilled through both ends of that box. Now all that bolt's really doing is stopping it dropping off when you disconnect. So what I'm thinking about trying is opening out the hole in the top of that box section so that the bolt head can drop down, and then it should pivot a lot more. So that's what I'm going to do. First I need to take the wooden decking off. Which I drilled and tapped into the framework. Then we can see the problem. So, my intention is that bolt can disappear inside this, or at the very least be given more movement at the top. So I'll definitely make this top hole bigger. The question then is whether I let the bolt disappear, the head disappear down to the bottom, or just let it pivot at the top. I know I could find a different bolt, but because of the type of bolt I've got, it's got a long shank on it, I'm going to stick with that bolt. It taps into that frame, and then the nut underneath is a locking nut. So I'm going to open this up. It's an 8mm bolt, so I'm going to open up to 10 for now. Possibly I should go a bit more, but 10's the biggest that fits in my drill truck. So there we go. Now I'll put it back together and see if that helps. So I do know my track is less than perfect, and we've just brought it outside I know it used to derail on here. Let's take a look. Well, I suppose as far as you can say at the moment, that's a success. Can't be certain until we get it onto other tracks and other places and actually run around with it. However, for now, I'd say that's finished. So, I can't go much further because we're still a bit overgrown. But until I'm actually running, I'm not going to be looking at that. Just before I go, I have thought I'll start work on the pom-pom. I wasn't going to, but I thought, oh, let's have a little look. Now, I remembered that I need to strip paint off the tender first. So we've got that back on the desk to look at stripping the paint off, but we had issues with the water valves, and I heard that there might have been a leak on the tank that might want fixing while it's stripped. So I figured we'd take a look at that first. So the water valves I have removed. They were both seized, but we'll do something with them before they go back on. I have freed them, but they need to be sorted. And we filled it with water. Yes, there is a leak. The question is where? There's a bit of water around that splasher inside that toolbox. But it's coming from underneath as well. So that's going to take a bit more looking at. So I have taken a look up underneath, and it does appear to be pooling around the underside of that splasher. So it must be running along and dripping out. Let's see if I can show you. Doesn't really show too well, but it is up there. So I had thought about just trying to clean this up and solder it and hope that it seals the bottom as well. It's obviously now empty, but what I'm going to do, flip it over, take that axle out, and then clean up the underside and solder it from underside and from on top. We'll see how that goes. With a bit of messing about, I found one of my wire brushes that would fit in the gap and a way of holding it in the drill. I managed to get down in there to clean up. I expect you're wondering why I'm not just taking it off the chassis. It is a bit difficultly put together. I think it's actually been soldered together in places in situ, so I can't quite see how it comes apart. So that will have to do for now. So we have cleaned it up reasonably in there. The next job will be to try and get some soft solder paste in there and just have a go, really. At the end of the day, it's not ideal soldering up inside there, but even if I took the tank body off the frames, that toolbox has all been soldered together, so I can't get in there anyway. But we will give it a go. If it doesn't work, then I still need to take it apart, and I haven't actually lost much. If it does work, then I've saved quite a lot. I have known in situations like this to use resin. I've not done it myself, but pour some resin in the bottom and that would seal it. The trouble is, because I think it's leaking along and then out underneath as well, the resin might not sort that one out. So I'm going to have a go at soldering it, and we'll try and get some solder pasting up underneath as well. Then as we solder it, we'll get some in from above, flip it over, get some more in from underneath, or vice versa, and then we'll see what happens. Hopefully it'll work. Let's have a look in the morning. So I've wiped some soft solder paste around all the joints in there. Same on the top and inside the locker. I'm just going to get a little torch in there, warm it up, and try and solder it down there. Once that's done, I'll flip it over and do the same from above, even though it's the same bit of metal, but that should solve our problem. So I'm not going to say it's pretty, but once it's cleaned up it won't look too bad. As you can see, I did, in the gap between the foot plate and the bottom, managed to take out the 2 bolts that held the brake stand in place so that I could take that floor out, just because I couldn't open this door with the brake stand in the way, and the whole floor had to come out because the brake stand had to come out because the floor stopped that coming off. Yeah, so we'll see how that looks. Oh, just noticed that the latch fell off there, so I'll solder that back on in a sec and then fill it with water and see what happens. I say fill it with water. The reason it's sat at an angle is because it's still full of water. It's just sitting at the angle brought the water level down far enough that it didn't interfere with what I was doing. So it's had a quick clean up, just with wire brushes and the Dremel, and we are ready to try and give it a test. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. Ish. See if the camera work there. Well, seems dry so far. I'll have a look underneath and see what, let you know. Well, it's not pretty underneath, but it doesn't appear to be dripping. So, hopefully that's a success. I'll leave it like that while I have dinner and have a look afterwards. Just had dinner. You come and look up the workshop, but let's see if the tender has been dripping on the floor or not. Nothing on the floor. However, there is a little bit here. So I need to investigate where that's come from. Well, that's odd because it's dry inside there. So where the heck has that come from? Oh, it does look damp along that edge there, so maybe I need to clean that up and just run a bit of solder along that edge. So I've given it a clean up. It does not appear to be coming from there. However, on closer inspection, it is damp in that back corner by the angle iron there. Angle iron, angle brass. So it'll be a clean up and a bit of solder on that side as well. Never mind, getting there. It's been a couple of hours since I did the last bit of soldering on this. It's dry in there, it's dry on the running board, it's dry this side, and yes, there is still water in it. I know that doesn't look like much, but when you go to the other side, it is deep at the front. So, that's the leak fixed. Next thing, get the paint off. I might even take these doors off. This one, the hinge is broken. But let's face it, they're not going to be easy to paint as they are. So if I take the doors off and find a way of attaching them, maybe just 2 bolts, then we'll be away. It'll all paint nice and easily then. So thanks for watching. It's not been the most interesting video from my point of view. It's been a bit frustrating. Not easy getting in those gaps to do the paint, to the solder, but yeah, hopefully before long we can get onto the painting. So thanks for watching. As always, overwhelmed and pleased with the support I get from all of you guys, and I look forward to hopefully showing you some painting. So take care, and I'll see you soon.